Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're signing in from today. Thank you for taking some time out to listen to this Energy Institute webinar, which is mainly about the process involved to apply for professional membership and registration. We'll do some quick intros.
Hi, so I'm Patrick Rafferty and I'm the company membership manager here at EI, and my colleague Terry will introduce himself.
Yeah, and I'm the head of membership and accreditation at the Energy Institute. As well as talking to you about the process for applying for professional membership, we'll also be touching on a bit about the EI and what we do, the benefits of membership, and the different membership grades that we offer. We should be done in no longer than 1 hour, and there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end by typing them. This is a one-way audio only webinar, so we are talking to you, but there will be an opportunity at the end to ask questions, but you'll need to type those questions rather than say them. The webinar is being recorded, and after today, we will send you all a link by email with the recording, and you'll be able to watch that on YouTube. So you'll be able to return to the webinar if you need to, or share it with friends and colleagues who you think might be interested in joining us. And equally, if you do experience any technical issues, maybe you can't see the slides, maybe you can't hear us very well, again, if you type that directly to us, we'll do our very best to try and resolve those issues for you. So I'll pass over to Patrick to get us underway.
Brilliant, thank you, Terry. Right, so the Energy Institute. What is the Energy Institute? Well, we are a chartered professional membership body for people who work across the world of energy. We're a registered charity in the United Kingdom, and we're incorporated by Royal Charter. We have over 20,000 members and 200 company members. We have an extensive international footprint with our branches located around the world, and we are working to develop a collaborative culture to address the energy world and all of the challenges. And our purpose is to create a better energy future for our members and society by accelerating a just global energy transition to net zero. So what does that mean and how do we do it? So the way we do it is through our triple EI triple role. So this is attracting, developing and equipping the diverse future and energy workforce. What do we do for this? So we have our career enhancing professional membership and registration, which we're going to talk about in more detail today. We provide a number of services to people working in the energy industry, including our EI Connect mentoring platform and our EI Assist platform, which provides confidential support to anyone and everyone working in the energy industry and is available 24 hours a day. We recognise people and projects through our prestigious EI awards. We have classroom and online training in all areas of energy, from energy management to health and safety and risk management. And we run a number of accredited courses through educational establishments worldwide. We have a number of projects, including our Powerful Women and Generation 2050 projects, which is bring diversity into the energy industry and boardrooms. And we continue to support the energy industry in that way. Our second role is the informing energy decision making through convening expertise and advice. How do we do that? We have a weekly digital magazine, which I'm sure a number of you already receive, which is called New Energy World, and it provides members and other readers with a window into the world of energy. We produce content throughout the year, which doesn't fit into our New Energy World, including our energy barometer and our energy barometer, and we also produce the review of world energy, which we've started this year, and provides the most comprehensive overview of all energy around the world. We have a program of events, and we have a conference, including EEI, our flagship conference in February, which every year. And we have the opportunity to feed into government consultations through EEI. And then finally, we are enabling industry and consumers to make energy lower carbon, safer and more efficient. So we work with companies through our company membership and our technical membership to develop best practice and give companies access to a number of extensive resources. We have our technical program where we develop best practice for industry. We're the home of G+ and Safety On, which brings together offshore and onshore wind industries to share health and safety and to learn lessons from any accidents that may have occurred. And we have the register of professional energy consultants available. So that's our role, and we're now going to talk about, in a bit more detail, our membership grades. So I'm going to hand over to Terry, who's going to take this on.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So yeah, I'm going to talk you through the different membership grades that we offer, starting with our 3 introductory grades of membership. So on the left-hand side, in orange, we have student, and that's for those who are, well, studying either at undergraduate, postgraduate or PhD level, or you might be on an apprenticeship. On the right-hand side, in green, we have affiliate membership. Now, this is for 2 groups, if you like. So either you don't work in energy, but you do have a general interest in energy and the energy sector, and you just want to keep up to date. If that's the case, then affiliate membership is for you. Or if you are working in energy, but you're not so much interested in upgrading to a professional or a chartered level, then again, affiliate membership is probably the most appropriate grade. And then in the middle, in blue, we have associate member, or AMEI. So they are the letters you can use after your name once you've joined as an associate. And that is for those who do want to progress. They do want to develop their career in energy. They want to work towards professional membership and registration, which I imagine is, most of you signed in listening today. Because they are introductory grades, you can join online. It's very quick, very easy. If you don't already have an online account with us, it will ask you to set that up first. And then it's a case of just following the steps through online to join at one of these grades. There's no assessment involved. It will get you immediate access to all the benefits that we offer. It will get you a membership number straight away. There is a fee to pay, which varies depending on which grade and what stage you are at in your career. Unless you are a student and you're studying at one of our learning affiliates. Learning affiliates are normally university departments that offer academic courses accredited by us, the EEI. If that's the case, then your student membership is free. Okay, moving on to our 3 professional grades of membership. So we have fellow member and technician member. So technician member, or TMEI, is essentially for people that make things work at ground level. They're solving practical technical problems. They may be involved in the supervision and guidance of others. They're not necessarily managing teams and leading projects. But technician members will have a good knowledge of the energy sector as a whole. Member, or MEI, is our most popular grade of professional membership. It's for experienced, competent professionals that work in the energy industry. you'd be working in responsible roles. You would have a good level of leadership and management skills, both of work and of people. And you'd have a broad knowledge of the energy sector. So you won't just be an expert in your field, you'll have a wider knowledge of what else is going on in energy or the other parts of the energy system. And Fellow, or FEI, is the highest grade of membership that we can award. It's for those, it's for the sort of leaders, the influences in energy. It's for those who make a contribution which is significant, positive, distinctive, and sustained. And fellows do have an advanced knowledge of the energy sector. And I'll be talking more about the requirements for fellowship later on in this webinar. Because these are professional grades of membership, you cannot join online. You have to put together a written application of some kind. If you're applying for member or technician member, it goes to our membership panel for a formal assessment. And Patrick will tell you about that process in a while. And if you're applying for fellowship, it goes to our fellowship board for a review. And if you're interested in applying for one of these 3 grades, the best place to start is the membership page of our website. There's a link on the slide. Find the grade you're interested in and download the application pack. This slide shows the classic membership journey, if you like. We realise this isn't the case for everyone, but so you begin as a student member. Once you finish your studies, you'd upgrade to associate member, and then once you have sort of sufficient relevant experience in energy, we'd expect you to upgrade to professional membership or incorporated or chartered registration. And this slide shows that we are able to offer an array of additional registrations and titles. So the 3 grades that I just mentioned are on the left there, and you can apply for one of those on its own. Many people do. But we're also licensed by the Engineering Council to award Chartered Engineer, Incorporated Engineer, and Engineering Technician registration. And we're licensed by the Society for the Environment to award Chartered Environmentalist registration. And on the right-hand side, you can see our 3 chartered titles: Chartered Energy Engineer, Chartered Petroleum Engineer, and Chartered Energy Manager. So those 3 titles you cannot obtain anywhere else or with any other professional body, only with the Energy Institute. Now, for all of these additional registrations in the middle and on the right, you can't just apply for one of those or 2 of those on their own. You have to be a professional member with us already, or you can apply for professional membership at the same time as one of the additional registrations. So just to clarify that, let's say you wanted to apply for Chartered Energy Manager. You would also need to apply for member with that title, unless you already are a member or you already are a fellow with us. Chartered Energy Engineer and Chartered Petroleum Engineer come hand in hand with Chartered Engineer, CEng. So if you do want to apply for CEng, you will also need to choose for one of the additional titles, Energy Engineer or Petroleum Engineer, but you'd be demonstrating the CEng competencies. There are separate competencies for Energy and Petroleum Engineer. We'll be talking about the specific requirements later, and we'll go into more detail about those titles then. Okay, Patrick.
Thank you. So Terry's outlined the membership options to us, and I'll just quickly go through what the benefits are. So they're all on the screen. You can see there. There's the bolster your credentials, which we will talk about, which Terry's already talked about, getting chartered, but we'll talk about that process in a second. The opportunity to get connected, I mentioned earlier, our EI Connect app, which will put you in touch with a mentor, and down the line potentially become a mentor yourself. There's access support. We have a program called EI Assist, which will support anyone and everyone in the energy industry, and it's fully confidential, available 24 hours a day. Be in the know. This again, it builds on our existing knowledge, resources, and our weekly magazine, which will give you a great overview of the energy industry. There's an opportunity to sort of give something back, and then also gain a wider perspective of areas that might sit outside your normal working day. The sort of significant benefits are our EI Connect mentoring, our My Career Path, which is our CPD program tool, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then there's the opportunity to learn and enhance through our knowledge and training resources. So what's in it? So we're going to talk about professional recognition now, and what's in it for you. It's an opportunity to show that you're serious, that you're not just sort of doing the job for the sake of it. You're committed to this, and it's something that you see a career and you want to develop in, and it shows employers and potential employers that you are prepared to sort of be in it for the long haul, and that you are taking personal responsibility for your own development and your own career. It helps you to stand out. It shows that you've taken these steps and that you are an excellent candidate for potential roles, either externally or internally. And it's an opportunity to show yourself that you've achieved exceptional things within the energy industry. It's a real mark of credibility and validation of all your work to get to where you are or want to be. And it's internationally recognised, so it'll give you an opportunity to take this chartership anywhere or around the world, and it will allow you to show how qualified you are for the role. So those are the benefits. Now we'll talk about the application process and the important parts of it. So the process is, on the top of it, relatively simple, and it's there. The application pack can be downloaded from our website. Once you download the application pack, it's very important that you read the guidance notes. There's a number of the guidance notes are well written and very clear, and it's very important that you read them before commencing your application. Once you've read the guidance notes and been through them, you then complete both Part A and Part B, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. And then you complete the proofread and ask your sponsor to check it. It's important that your sponsor checks it, because they'll know they will have gone through this process or a similar process before, and they'll know what to look out for and the potential mistakes that you could be making. Once you've completed all those steps, you then send your application into professionals. So what do you need to do and how do you apply? So Part A is the application form. Part A includes the application form, which you'll find on your website. 2 sponsors is very important, that at least one of your sponsor is the same level to which you're applying. Ideally, in best practice, they both would be. But if you are having issues with this, email professionals and they may be able to help you. But it is crucial that you find sponsors who have already achieved what you're applying for, as they'll be in the best position to aid you in your process. The professional development review, now there's details of this in the guidance, but it's, to be very clear, it's not a CV. It needs to be talking about how you've developed, and it's not just a sort of listing exercise. The CPD record form, now this can be downloaded on our website, and it's important that you complete that as per the guidance, and it's not, again, not a CV. The organizational chart, this is to provide a bit of context where you sit within your organization. We obviously don't need the full details of the organization, but it is important to have more than just your manager and people that you manage. We need a bit of context. So show people laterally within your teams or your organisation as well. There's copies of your certificate and photo ID. It's important these are countersigned by your sponsor, and make sure that they are all countersigned by your sponsor, and then you will have to complete the and then you'll have to pay the application fee on the website. All of these areas, there's detailed guidance notes on what you need to do, so make sure you're checking back and forth as you go through them, as if these are wrong or incorrect or missing, it will very likely put you to the back of the queue once you submit it to if we have to come back to you and ask for more information. And then the part B is the competence grid, which I will talk about now. When we complete the competence grid, we want to have these 5 things at the front of our mind. So knowledge and understanding, clearly demonstrating our knowledge and understanding of the subject, our application, where we've used it, how we've used it, our leadership and management, so how we've been involved in managing and leading through this project, our communication and interpersonal skills, so how we've had to use these and develop these when undertaking our projects, and our commitment to professional standards, basically showing that you are meeting the standards in everything and anything you do. So here's an example of a competence grid for an MEI. When you complete this competence grid, you should have those 5 points that I've mentioned in your mind, but you should be very clear that it's what you've done. Don't talk about, it's okay to talk about what your team has done, but make sure you're talking about what your specific role was within that team. You've got to be clear and detailed about what you've done and what you've achieved. Try and use as many examples as possible throughout the grid. So it would be worth, while you're completing this, going through the grid and just sort of making some notes on what example you're going to use for each section. You can use an example more than once, but it is a stronger application if you can use as many examples as possible. But do try and use examples that are relevant for the context. And if it's necessary, do include supplementary information, but try to avoid going over the word count. I would recommend that you stay within sort of 10% of the word count. Again, this information will be found on the competence grid and on the guidance notes. And this is an example of some of the questions you might find in a CEng competence grid. It's very important that you proofread these applications as they were as part of the application process is obviously, and showing that you are competent for this role, is that you can complete the application process correctly. Don't submit a CV. It's not what we're looking for, and will negatively impact your application. It's an obvious one, but we have to say it. Also, try and avoid avoid plagiarizing. Any content that's clearly been plagiarized will mark your application down negatively. And make sure you complete every section of the grid. There are likely to be areas where you're perhaps not as strong as others, but it's important that you at least speak to your skills there, and you don't leave anything blank. And these have all been summarized here. As Terry mentioned, all of this will be provided to you. We will send both the video and a copy of the slides out after the presentation. So the assessment process, once you've completed all of this and reviewed it yourself and also reviewed it with your sponsor, you then send it into the EI office. That can be by email. It will initially be reviewed by the team in the office, and if there's anything missing, they will come back to you and ask for it. But do bear in mind that will slow down your application process significantly. If someone submits an application that is fully complete, that will go straight to the assessors. So once it's been reviewed, it will then be sent to the assessors, where they will discuss the application, and at this point the application might be sent back, or you might be asked for more information, or you might be recommended that you wait a few years and you're not quite ready, but you will be in a few years, and to reapply in a couple of years' time. Or more likely, you'll be passed on to the interview stage, which will be conducted by a few of your peers. The next deadline for application is the 31st of August, which I appreciate is quite tight. If you're not going to meet the application, that's not meet the deadline, that's not a problem. I believe the next one is towards the end of October, but do get it in so that it can be presented to the membership panel in good time. The interview process. So this is, as the slide says, between 45 minutes and 75 minutes. It's a very informal discussion about your application and the process about your application and about yourself. You won't be asked to present, and it's not going to be a sort of exam, but do have in mind that you will be talking about your application. So make sure you're fully, if there's been a gap between you submitting your application and the interview, do make sure that you're fully aware of what you've put down and fully up to speed of the application. But it will be with someone who works in your field or your area and is very familiar with the area of energy, so they'll be able to discuss your application in good detail, and will be able to. They'll also be able to guide you through what you need from the interview. So I'm now going to hand back to Terry, who's going to go through the requirements for the professional titles.
Thank you, Patrick. So already, yeah, by now you already know the different grades that we offer. You know the benefits of joining, and Patrick's taken you through the sort of general process to apply. So what we're going to do now is drill down into some of the specific requirements for some of our professional titles. And I'm going to start with a couple of what we call direct entry routes to professional membership, because most of the time you will need to already be a member. So you'll ideally be an associate member already, and then you can upgrade to professional membership. But we do have a couple of direct entry routes available. The first one is the professional registrants route, sometimes known as the fast track route. And this route is available for MEI member and technician member TMEI. So the first requirement is that you are already registered as either a chartered engineer, an incorporated engineer, or a chartered environmentalist with another professional body in the UK or with Engineers Ireland. You also need to be able to demonstrate a track record of working in responsible roles in energy. So if you can demonstrate that, and you do already hold one of those 3 titles, then you can apply for the sort of quicker, simplified route to MEI. And similarly, if you're already an engineering technician with another professional body in the UK, or again with Engineers Ireland, then you can apply for this simplified route to technician member. But again, you need to be working in energy. And there are sort of less documents to submit on this route. There's an application form, which is very straightforward. But we also ask you for an up-to-date CV, a signed copy of your photographic ID, and basically an overview of your relevant experience in energy. Okay, so you might be already professionally registered, but we want to know what you've done in energy. What's your role or roles? What have you achieved? How have you contributed to the energy industry? That's what it's all about. And the other route is fellowship. So sort of 16 or 18 months ago, we completely changed the process to apply for fellow. You no longer need to demonstrate. It's now about demonstrating. So we basically have 15 categories, and you can apply against 1, 2, or 3 of those categories. So minimum of 1, maximum of 3. And those categories are things like expertise in energy, leading in energy, excellence in academia, entrepreneurship in energy, promoting sort of inclusivity and diversity. I won't go through all the 15 categories, but those are the sorts of things we're talking about. And if you feel that you stand out against one of those categories, and you can prove that the contribution you made is positive, distinctive, significant, and/or sustained, then you would be eligible to apply. All fellowship applications are reviewed by our fellowship board. And if you don't think this is suitable for you, but perhaps you know someone else that might be eligible, if you go online and download the forms, you can download a nomination form and provide us with that person's details, and then we'll get in touch with them. Okay, so on to the engineering titles that we are licensed to award. So they are, just to repeat, Chartered Engineer, Incorporated Engineer, and Engineering Technician. Now, for all three of these titles, there is an educational standard that you have to meet. So it's not just about experience, it's also about your educational background. Now, I'm not going to read out these three educational standards because we need a lot more time. But as Patrick mentioned, we will share these slides afterwards so you can have a look. But also they are listed in the guidance notes in the application packs online, and you can also find them on the Engineering Council website. So essentially, if you're interested in applying for one of these titles, the first thing that you need to establish is whether you have qualifications that are accredited for CEng, IEng, or EngTech, either by the Engineering Council or under an international agreement such as the Washington Accord. And if you want to make a head start, you can, there's an accredited course search on the Engineering Council website. So you can go online and have a look there to see if your qualifications are listed. Now, every professional body will have a process in place to assess this educational standard. And the one we have is called interim registration. So when you apply for one of these engineering titles, as I said, you've got to demonstrate two things. The educational standard, which is in the blue box there, the foundation, technical knowledge, skill and understanding. And that's what we have interim registration in place for. And the second half is the professional competence and commitment. That is essentially your experience in engineering in the energy sector. So interim registration, the best thing to do is, if you're not sure whether your qualifications are accredited or not, we'll tell you. So if you go onto the membership page of the website, find the box for interim registration, download a very short basic form where you list your qualifications, send that in to us, and we will check them for you. Okay, so we'll be able to tell you whether your qualifications are accredited or not. They might be fully, they might be partially, or they might not be accredited at all. If they're only partially accredited or they're not accredited at all, you will need to do follow a process first before you get to the to supplying all those documents that Patrick was taking you through. Okay. It basically involves filling in another grid, if you like, and within that grid, you need to demonstrate how you meet all the different sort of learning outcomes, be it at honours level or master's level learning. So essentially, you are trying to demonstrate that you have the equivalent knowledge and understanding of engineering principles as someone who does have an accredited qualification. And those forms that you fill out are looked at by our ICP panel, our individual case procedure panel. So just to summarise then, for the 3 engineering titles, you have to meet that educational standard. We have interim registration in place to help you do that. You need to demonstrate relevant practical experience in engineering, in energy, and you need to demonstrate those competencies that Patrick took you through, listed A to E. You need to abide by the EI's Code of Conduct. You need to commit to maintaining your continuing professional development, or CPD. And every year we run a CPD audit and we ask a large selection of members for their up-to-date CPD records. So we could ask you, and also it's written into our Code of Conduct that you need to maintain your CPD. You need to join as a professional member at the same time, unless you already are a professional member with us. And you need to choose either Chartered Energy Engineer or Chartered Petroleum Engineer if you want to go for CEng. So, Chartered Environmentalist. So, if you work in a role that's concerned with sustainability, so you might work in sustainability, or you might be responsible for promoting sustainability to others, trying to change behaviours, trying to change the culture of an organisation, or you might be concerned with the environmental impacts and implications of strategies. If that sort of stuff resonates with you, then maybe Chartered Environmentalist is the most appropriate title that you want to apply for. Like the engineering titles, you do need to have a relevant degree, a relevant master's degree or equivalent. And when we say equivalent, we're talking about other ways. So through other academic achievements or qualifications, or perhaps through self-directed learning, or through work-based experience. You need to have relevant experience, and you need to abide by our Code of Conduct. So a lot of these things are very similar. You also need to abide by the Society for the Environment's Code of Conduct, because don't forget we're licensed by them to award this title. And same things apply in terms of CPD and professional membership. So Chartered Energy Manager is one of those 3 exclusive chartered titles that we offer. Chartered Energy Managers are experienced professionals who are basically making sure that energy is managed in an efficient way within the organisation. You'll have knowledge of market supply. You'll be involved with creating energy efficient policies. You'll be involved with sort of energy audits, optimization of energy, sort of measuring and monitoring energy usage, trying to cut costs, trying to save energy, looking at renewable forms of energy as an alternative. It's those types of things that our Chartered Energy Managers do. So if you do that type of work, then maybe Chartered Energy Manager is the one for you. We're talking about the same things again there. So you need to have relevant practical experience. You need to demonstrate the specific competencies that we're looking for. There's no educational requirement for Chartered Energy Manager. We do offer quite a good range of energy management training. And although they're not a prerequisite, you don't have to do our training to apply for Chartered Energy Manager. They will help significantly in terms of demonstrating the A and B competencies, so knowledge and understanding and application to practice. And something we launched quite recently in April is our Energy Efficiency Experts Register. So we are also licensed by the Environment Agency to award ESOS Lead Assessor status. And if you want to become an ESOS Lead Assessor, what you have to do is join our Energy Efficiency Experts Register. Now, this used to be part of the process to apply for Chartered Energy Manager, but we've decoupled it, so it's 2 separate processes now. And if you do want to join the register, if you do want to become an ESOS lead assessor, the requirements are listed here. So again, you need to be a professional member of the EI. You need to hold a relevant current chartered title. So Chartered Environmentalist and Chartered Energy Manager are two examples of that. You need to demonstrate the PASS competencies. You need to have a minimum of 2 years relevant experience in the performance of energy audits or assessments. You need to abide by a code of conduct, commit to CPD, and also complete the ESOS online training module. So once you join our register, once you've been through the assessment process, we'll send you a link to complete that online course. But it's relatively straightforward, and it is designed for sort of new registrants. Okay, over to you, Patrick.
Thank you. So what next? You've got all that information. What do you need to do now? So the opportunity to join as a member, I imagine most of you here today have already joined through one of our introductory grades, but if not, now is the time to join up, which can be done through our website. There's an opportunity to get involved through EI activities and begin sort of keeping up to date with your and begin your CPD. You can download the application pack. Make sure you check the guidance as we discussed. And if there are areas that you're missing, it would be prudent to start planning where you're going to fill in those gaps over the next sort of few months or years, depending on your timeline for getting chartered. Have a look, and then really the big area is get started. It is a bit of a process, but like all jobs, once you start doing it, it becomes a lot easier. And if you do find that you're having some issues, we've got a number of resources available to help. So the guidance notes is your first point of call, and should answer the majority of your questions. If there are any areas that you're not sure about or would like someone to take a second look, speak to your sponsors. They've been through the process, or they should have been through the process, so they will be able to help you, even if they've not been through the process with EI and they've done it for another institute. It will be very similar, and they'll be able to provide you with a bit of context and support. There's also an opportunity to either sign up for a mentor, and that can be done through our EI Connect program. And if you're really not sure, feel free to contact the EI membership team on that email or by phone. They'll be able to help you, and they will have probably seen the question before, so we'll have an excellent answer ready to go. So thank you very much for your time. Terry and I we've now got about 15 minutes for questions, so feel free to add them in the chat. I can see a couple have come in. In the first question is, can a mentor also be a sponsor? Yes, so long as the sponsor has got the right qualifications, then they can absolutely be your sponsor as well. I've got another question. I am applying for CEng, Energy Engineer, and MEI at the same time. I noticed that Part B competency form questions are very similar for both. Appreciate that MEI has a lower requirements. Does this mean that I have to? Is it okay to have some replication in the application forms? Yes, I'm afraid you do need to complete both the forms. Like you mentioned, there is some similarity, and there is a little bit of repetition is okay. I'm sure Terry will jump in if that's not the case, but
I was going to say, yeah, that is absolutely correct. So we recognize that one example you give could demonstrate multiple competencies, so you can use the same example to demonstrate more than one competence, and that is acceptable. But just think about whether you can use other examples from your experience and background, because the more examples you provide to demonstrate the competencies, the sort of you're showing that the sort of depth and breadth of your experience. and that can only work in your favour.
Another question here. I understand every case is individual, but assuming the applicant meets all criteria, are you able to provide some generic guidance on how many years of relevant experience before making an application? Yeah, it's a tricky one because I'm afraid there isn't really an answer to that. If you meet all the criteria, then that's enough experience. There's not, yeah, apologies, there's not it's not a great answer. But it is essentially, if you've got the experience, if you can hit all the criteria, then you're experienced enough, is the answer.
Yeah, agree. From experience of seeing all the applications come in, you know, it could be that you have 10 years experience and you don't make the grade because you weren't able to demonstrate the competency sufficiently. And yet someone else with 3 or 4 years experience is able to do that. So we have to be very careful about not putting a sort of number of years you must have in order to apply. We have to be very careful about not advising that. It's whether you can meet all the standards and competencies required for that title that you're applying for. Simple as that.
The next question is, could you please give some examples of suitable sponsors for CEng? It's a bit tricky because it depends on each case, but the best sort of answer is if they already have a CEng, then they're going to be they're likely to be a suitable sponsor. It's really going to depend on your application and what your and your situation. But if they have got a CEng or already a member of either the Energy Institute or another institute, they're likely to be a suitable sponsor.
Yeah, and I think it says in the guidance that your line manager or your line director would be a good person to use for obvious reasons. They're very familiar with what you do every day, so they'll be able to provide a sort of strong supporting sponsor, and they'll be able to write probably more comments on the sponsor form, which also helps your application. We appreciate that your line manager, line director might not be chartered or might not be an MEI or FEI, whatever it is, but they're a good alternative example to use.
Next question is, how long does it take for a decision after submission of interim, if passed on to an assessor? Yeah, again, it depends. Often if we have to come back with to clarify something, then that can add time to it. But it really depends. I'm afraid we're not able to give a sort of a timeline on that, I'm afraid. Right, the next round of applications after August 31st. Yeah, we appreciate that the 31st is quite a tight deadline. I believe it's the end of October, but it would be prudent to get it in well before that date if you can. We have deadlines every quarter, I believe. Terry will confirm. But yes, if there's no need to wait for a deadline, just once your application is complete to a standard that you're happy with, send it in. The next question is, must sponsors be EI members? No, they don't need to be EI members. If you're able to get one, it might make it easier, but no, they don't need to be, as long as they hold a similar standard of professional qualification than to the one that you're applying, then they will be suitable. So I'm currently an interim CEng status A MEI, looking to upgrade to full CEng. Will the information I submitted for my interim application be used as a basis, or will the CEng application be completely in isolation, starting from scratch? Terry, are you able to take that one?
So you can't use your interim CEng submission. You can't use that as part of your full CEng application. It might be that there are some of the content you can use. You could copy and paste that across, use that. Don't forget that the interim application is all about meeting the educational standard, whereas the when you apply for full CEng registration, you're filling in the CEng competence grid, you'll mainly be referring to the experience that you have, the relevant experience in engineering in the energy sector. So that should give you plenty of opportunity to pick other examples.
Another one is, how do I go about finding a sponsor, as my senior engineers are chartered, but I'm applying for incorporated engineer? So first off, the EI Connect app is an opportunity to sort of put you in touch with a mentor who might not be a mentor, and someone who might be prepared to sponsor you who's not within your organisation. But Terry will be able to build on that.
Just to clarify, so it's a CEng. So someone who's a chartered engineer can sponsor you for an incorporated engineer application. They don't have to be an IEng specifically, if that makes sense.
The next question, do you have any professional qualifications relevant to roles focused on energy market data analytics, energy policy development, and energy systems modelling? Again, the chartered energy manager is likely to be the where this is covered, but again, Terry can build on that if needed.
Yeah, it's quite obviously it's quite difficult to recommend a grade based on a very sort of brief description, but yeah, it could be chartered energy manager. MEI, you could apply for MEI on its own based on what you've said, or maybe both, MEI and chartered energy manager. Or if you're particularly stand out in those areas, then maybe even fellowship. I suppose we have to be quite careful in recommending a particular title to you. We always say the best thing to do is download the application pack, download the guidance, have a look at the requirements and the standards and the competencies, and then you should be able to determine very quickly which grade is most suitable.
And the next question is, for interim registration, do you need to have been on an accredited course throughout university? For example, I have an accredited master's for CEng, but my bachelor's is not an accredited course. Would this grant me registration, or would I have to demonstrate that I meet the requirements?
So again, hard to say. By the sounds of it, you probably would need to do interim registration, because you have the masters, you have the accredited masters for CEng, but you don't have the accredited bachelors. So by the sounds of it, you will have to do interim registration, but you'll only have to do half of the form that I was talking about. You won't need to demonstrate the master's level learning outcomes. You'll only need to demonstrate the honours level learning outcomes. But to be 100% certain, go online, download the application form for interim registration, fill it in with your qualifications, send it to us, and we will tell you for sure whether you need to do interim registration or not.
Next question is, what happens to those that have been in the energy sector for about 10 years outside the UK, but now have an accredited MSc course? What should they apply for, membership or professional? Well, the answer is that you can apply for both. You can apply for MEI and you can apply for professional registration. Is there anything to add there, Terry?
Just I suppose just to reiterate that it doesn't matter where you gained your experience in energy. Doesn't matter where, anywhere around the world, as long as it's relevant, then yeah, you can apply for professional membership.
The next question is, when applying for Chartered Energy Manager, how long does the process take from application to interview acceptance? Yeah, again, this is a tricky one because it really depends on the strength of your application form. If there's areas missing, then that's going to significantly delay your application. But again, we can't really give a good timeline, I'm afraid. It really depends. But you can certainly make it pretty swift if you've got all the information to hand and the application form is completed to the best of your ability. As I mentioned earlier, if we have to come back to you and ask for clarification on items, it's likely to put you to the back of the queue and slow down your application form.
Yeah, that's spot on what Patrick was saying. That the better the quality of your application, the quicker the process should be. And also do bear in mind that all our assessors and interviewers are volunteers. So you know it's finding the time to do the assessments and interviews. We are reliant on their volunteers, and yeah, that can mean it takes a bit longer as well.
Another question is, it's suggested direct managers should be used as sponsors. Is it an issue if they don't have CEng status? It's not, but you will need one sponsor that does have CEng status if that's what you're applying for. Terry will sort of confirm that. Yeah,
that's right.
But so as long as they're able to speak to your experience and your competencies, then that is fine. There's a question about an application form. I'll have a look and come back to you on that one. Hello, am I able to apply for Chartered Energy Manager and ESOS Lead Assessor at the same time, or would I have to obtain Chartered Energy Manager first? Terry will be able to check that.
So you'd have to apply for Chartered Energy Manager first, and then after that process, you'd have to you'd look to join the Energy Efficiency Experts Register, and that would mean that you can become an ESOS Lead Assessor, unless, of course, you already hold a relevant chartered title elsewhere. So if, for example, you're already a CEng with another professional body, then you could apply straight away to be on our register.
If someone got chartered engineer via EI, will they be automatically be a chartered energy engineer? Terry, is that?
So you pick. So when you fill in your application form for chartered engineer, you would pick. Do you want the additional chartered energy engineer title, or do you want the additional chartered petroleum engineer title? But as I said, you're demonstrating the CEng competencies as defined by the Engineering Council. You're not demonstrating an additional set of competencies for chartered energy engineer. You're demonstrating the CEng competencies, but obviously you're talking about it from an energy related perspective. So you're highlighting your energy skills, your energy experience, your energy achievements, etc.
The next question is, does the simplified application route for MEI also apply to FEI?
No, so the professional registrants route is for MEI and TMEI. If you're interested in applying for fellowship, there's a separate process as outlined on the fellowship page of our website.
Brilliant. There's a couple more questions about whether non-members of EI can be a sponsor. Yes, they definitely can, so long as they can speak to your experience. Right. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry, to clarify, my interim CEng application included experiences from work as well as education. Can experiences from work be used again for this full CEng application, or can these experiences not be used again? No, they can absolutely be used again in your full CEng application. Hopefully that's clear. Yes, I'll be sending the slides out shortly, and we will also be distributing a record copy of the sessions. That will probably take a bit longer, but we will put that out as soon as possible. And last question is, if I'm currently working abroad, will the application be processed by home country or local board? So the applications will be processed by EI. It's important to note, we didn't mention this earlier, but the interviews are all online, so you can attend those from anywhere around the world. You don't need to come to London to undertake the interviews. And I think we're now at the end of the questions. So thank you very much for everyone who's attended today. Hopefully we've offered some clarification on the application process, and if you haven't already, we'll be sending applications our way. As I mentioned, we'll be distributing the slides and a copy of the recording as soon as possible. So thank you very much for coming, and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.